Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Alton.
Recently, the market falls a bit, and at the same time, fintech is still the big word in the market.
Yes.
Can you share us more on what is your view and your understanding of all this fintech business and technology?
Sure. So fintech is a very broad term. It encompasses various different financial aspects of pretty much everyone's daily life. So it could be something that we use very often like payments. And payments itself has evolved tremendously over the years, right? From cash to credit cards and even swiping the credit card to now having contactless and then using your digital wallet on your phone. So all of these things are part of fintech, but payment is only one of them. But there are other pillars within this as well. For example, very interesting things like P2P lending, blockchain, alternative currencies, or personal finance. That is one that is always quite interesting. Having tax reporting software or the changes in different tax laws and how that changes your tax reporting software is all part of fintech. And that is more on the consumer side, but there are also other things for corporates. For example, trading systems within a brokerage or a bank, the back-end system, how to do it by cloud. These things are all part of fintech.
I see. So if we want to dig deeper, let's say in the aspect of payment,
Sure.
or this decentralized finance, anything you can teach us?
Sure. So I'd like to share that within, for example, within payment or within this movement of so-called decentralized finance, obviously we're talking about blockchain.
Okay.
So the blockchain is basically a way of agreeing with each other without a central entity to say that this is actually, to endorse that this is actually the trade that happened and this is the settlement process, for example, or who owns what. So within blockchain, what can happen is it could have various different parties all agreeing to something happening instead of having a central entity to agree to that. And this can open up vast amount of doors for things such as financial inclusion. It could open doors to settlement processes or ownership processes or verification of these ownerships. So this can be put on to many things in our daily life, but in finance, it can be used quite tremendously. The ownership to an insurance obligation, the ownership to stocks and equities, it could all be changed or could all use blockchain. So it's very interesting.
I see. So when it comes to this word disruptions,
Yes, disruptions.
What kind of disruption you expect would affect the traditional business, or and in what kind of ways?
Sure. So I think payments is the easiest one for investors or people watching the video to understand. For example, the fact that we now have digital wallets on our phone, and the fact that you can have multiple credit cards on just one phone without actually having the card is already a disruption in its sense. However, even within credit card, there is ongoing disruption. So lately for consumers, I think everyone will surely have seen such things as buy now, pay later. So it's a totally different process to using a normal credit card where a vendor or an e-commerce platform can offer consumers to take home the goods first, but pay for it in installments. And the disruption to that is using the credit card. So I think we are very used to going to buy something or to pay for something using our credit card. Of course, what that process is at the end of the month when you have to pay that full amount, you're supposed to pay it. If you don't, you have to, of course, incur interest costs. This is actually different in buy now, pay later, whereas some buy now, pay later firms, they actually don't charge interest. It will hurt your credit rating within that buy now, pay later platform to be able to use buy now, pay later again, but some of them actually don't charge interest. So this is actually quite interesting for consumers. Consumers might feel that if I buy something that is, for example, 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, I have 30 days or until the end of the month to pay for it. That, of course, is a delaying in payment, which might be beneficial for some consumers. But buy now, pay later changes the dynamic, whereas for something that is $1,000, maybe you're paying $250 right at the start, and then you do another 3 installments to complete that payment. And that is fundamentally different to paying a lump sum at the end of the month. So this type of disruption is one of many that is going on within financial technology, within fintech. So it could be much more vast than this. But payments is something where I think a lot of things are happening very quickly, and a lot of incumbent or traditional payment channels are actually adding on such things as buy now, pay later. And this type of disruption should create value for the user or for the vendors.
I see. When it comes to investments, the market is so broad. There are fintech companies in Hong Kong, China, US or Europe. And I think it would be very tedious for individual investors to spot individual corporates. I understand Global X launched a FinTech ETF in December 2021.
Yes.
Can you share us more about this ETF?
Sure. So 3185 is the Global X FinTech ETF. It is passively tracking the INDXX index's Global FinTech thematic index. And within it, it uses various keywords to try and highlight and find relevant companies within fintech. So some of these keywords, for example, are P2P, personal finance, payments, blockchain. So in which case, the index is trying to get the underlying basket to have a good representation for potential investors to consider that is very relevant to fintech. And as we've talked about, fintech could be very wide in scope. So for investors, of course, we always encourage investors to of course, do their own research into individual companies, but sometimes they might not have the chance to investigate everything, right? Too many, in which case the 3185 currently, as it stands, has around 66 companies for underlying constituents, and a lot of these are within the IT classification in terms of industries. Close to 79, close to 80% are IT companies. Rightly so, because fintech is very, IT-like, right? So. Investors can take a look at it, and maybe you can find single stocks that you might like, or look at it for its entirety and use it as a substitution or an addition or an expression for where finance might be going into the future.
I see, I see. Looking at the index methodology,
yes,
as well as the holdings, I find out that, to my surprise, not all these companies are very young, let's say 5 to 6 years. There are some over 40 years company, and they are also Fortune 500 companies.
Yes.
So fintech is not just young company, is it?
Yes, absolutely not. So I would use the word for finance. You have incumbents, right? You have traditional companies or banking or financial institutions that have been within finance for many years, and of course they also need to go along with the times and go along with technological development.
Rejuvenate.
Yeah, to rejuvenate themselves and to reinvent themselves and to offer a better product and service for consumers. So a lot of the times these companies are actually changing themselves. Of course, you also have new and upcoming companies that are much younger, but that is the arena of finance, right? So it's all about offering financial inclusion and making it easier for everyone to use your services, because finance and at the end of the day, money is a fundamental ingredient of our daily lives. Right?
I see. Come back to this ETF 3185.
Yes.
What is the recent stock price, the lot size, so we can know what is the minimum investment amount?
Sure. So roughly,
Yeah.
as of today, it should be somewhere around $45, $46, and the lot size in Hong Kong for this is 50 shares.
Okay.
So the entry fee would be about 2,200 Hong Kong dollars.
Ooh, so it's a very low minimum entry
Yeah,
fee.
low entry.
I see. So today we learned a lot from Stephen on fintech and Global X ETF 3185. And lastly, make sure you do your own research, homework before doing any investment.
Yes.
All investment involves risk.
Of course. Yes.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.